Well, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Coventry and Warwickshire People's Assembly meeting. I think that's important to stress that this is not just a Coventry meeting, as you'll see later on. And it's a very damp evening, so thank you all for making the effort to join us tonight. I'm so glad so many of you can make it. My name's Jane Nellis. I'm the Secretary of Coventry Trades Council. I'm also Joint Secretary of Coventry NUT, the National Union of Teachers, and I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. The aim of the meeting is to hear as many of you people as well tonight, as well as to listening to our speakers on the top table. So we've got a lot to get through. But as always, we have to take health and safety importantly, and so I'm just going to read to you from the script, so forgive me. There is no planned fire alarm tonight, so if it does go off, we need to leave the building. And the assembly point for everyone is at the front of the building by the fountain in the Bull Yard, and don't re-enter the building. There are emergency exits signposted around the room, and clearly because it's such a big meeting tonight, and we do have quite a lot of people we need to take care if we do need to leave, but I'm sure we won't. Okay. Last Tuesday in the Council House it was agreed a further £19 million worth of cuts to the budget in Coventry, and if you watch the local news, that's happening across the region. It's an attack on our public services. Youth centres are being closed, older people are being affected, and if you saw the interview with Councillor Gannon, responsible for finances, he admitted that by 2025, if the cuts continue at such a pace, there will be no council services at all. We have a city in Coventry that we're renowned now for our food banks and for the queues at our food banks. We have 0-hour contracts. I don't have to tell you all those dismal things that are happening. A scenario that we never ever thought we'd see in this city. Austerity is biting hard. Coventry, if you read the press release, is the birthplace of trade unionism, with the Tom Mann coming from this area. Coventry was the city where everybody looked to for their wage rates, because we had the highest wage rates in the country. Now, no longer, I'm afraid. And so the fight back against austerity has been going on for a while, but this is to really reignite that fight back and to get all of you involved in it. So the first speaker I'm going to ask to speak is Sam Fairbairn, who's the Secretary, the National Secretary of the People's Assembly, and he'll explain a bit more about what we're here tonight to do. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone, and I'd just like to say what a fantastic turnout it is. It's great to see so many people here tonight. But this is just one of tens and tens of meetings that have taken place across the country over the last few months. Actually, just this week, this is one of 4 that are taking place of brand new People's Assembly groups that are launching, which is obviously a fantastic achievement across the country. But I think it's becoming much more and more important now that we're organising meetings like this, and we're organising this kind of movement, because it's a time now when David Cameron announces at the end of last year, speaking by the way from a gold-plated podium, that austerity needs to be permanent. Regardless of the deficit, austerity needs to be permanent. Just last month, George Osborne announced a further, in a speech, he announced in a speech that we should brace ourselves for a year of hard truths. In a speech that he announced a further £25 billion of cuts. And living standards have consistently fallen. We all know this, but there was a recent report from the Office for National Statistics which found that we're now going through the longest consistent fall in real wages since records began. A recent Unite survey found that only 18% of workers, 18%, say that their wage lasts them the entire month. It's no surprise then that payday loan companies are seeing record profits, and incredibly, 9 out of 10 new housing benefit claims come from those in work, but to pay too low to afford their rents. But at the same time of all of this, we are told that the economy is recovering. We're told that it's turned a corner, it's growing faster than anybody could have expected. And I think what that says to people really is that it's getting better for us up here, but you down there, you deserve austerity. And I think that's becoming more and more obvious, and it exposes the government's real agenda here, which is clearly to fundamentally restructure society to benefit those at the top. But I think we also have to remember that it's not just this government. All three main parties are committed to austerity, and that means that meetings like this, that creating a mass movement on the streets is more important than ever, and that mass movement needs to take off in a very serious way, very, very quickly, because that's really the only thing that's going to stop austerity in its tracks. But we've got to also understand that creating this movement isn't going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a lot of hard work from everybody here, and I think we need to see meetings like this as just the start. This is just the start of the campaign. From today, we need to go back into our communities. We need to turn meetings like this it seems like 200 people, 250, whatever it is here tonight, into meetings of 500-600 people. We need to go back onto the estates. We need to organise protests. We need to organise banner drops. We need to be confident in our ideas and be as visible and creative as possible in terms of how we get more people involved with this campaign. But crucially, these kind of meetings, this campaign, we need to. The difficult part of this is finding the things that we can all unite on. We need to leave our differences at the door, and we need to unite around the few issues that we can all agree on. And it's forming those alliances with the people in the Labour Party, with people in the Green Party, with the pensioners, with the students, with those in a trade union, with those out of a trade union. It's that basis that we need to form this movement. And if we look back over history, although the mainstream media and the politicians like to tell us that protesting doesn't do anything, it doesn't have any effect, you're wasting your time, go home, it's not going to achieve anything. But let's look back over history. It was the Chartists and the suffragettes that won the vote. It was let's look over the pond in Canada recently, the big student movement there that won against increasing fees. I think the recent vote in Parliament on Syria that the government lost was a fantastic victory for the anti-war movement and a victory for those millions of people that marched and protested over a decade. And more recently than that, even let's look at the Lewisham Hospital campaign. That was a fantastic campaign, a fantastic victory. Tens and tens of thousands of people were mobilised, were marching on the streets, and they managed to save the local hospital. And I think we need to take inspiration from these campaigns, but we also need to bring them all together into one coordinated national movement. And that's what the People's Assembly is about, and that's why the People's Assembly is so important. And we've made a very good start. We launched last June with a conference in London of over 4,000 people. Since then, we've had meetings like this across the country. Over 80 local groups have sprung up across the country, and more are springing up all the time. We've organised big events and big protests and days of action. But the truth is, that's not enough. We need more action. We need to be more confident. We need to get more people involved with this campaign, and that means and that's down to everybody in this room. We need to go back and build this movement on every street, on every estate, in every workplace. And in the next few months, the People's Assembly has come up with an action plan which, along with the trade unions and the campaigns, which I think can start to mobilise these hundreds of thousands of people that we need to see. And that starts on Budget Day. On the 19th of March is when George Osborne is going to be announcing another set of cuts and privatisations for 2014. And we've called a day of action in every town and city across the country. And I hope after tonight, people can get organised in Coventry and organise something big, a big protest or media stamp up here on that day, on the 19th of March.